So this morning during my Friday morning Zoom with Tyrone Ross and Douglas, we missed you this week, but we know you've got some stuff with the girls. We were reminiscing on the last few years, and I got talking about all about your Benjamins, and was flexing a little bit with Tyrone and thought I would just highlight some of the guests that have been on over the last almost 3 years. So January will be year 3 of All About Your Benjamins. If you didn't know, I'm bringing it back on a monthly basis, still trying to identify the talent that's going to be leading us in the future, but more along the lines of still financial planning, but fintech and things of that area, entrepreneurship. But I think back and I think about the guests I've had on and when I had them on my podcast, it kind of gives me some confidence and makes me excited that maybe I have a little bit of an eye for talent. Now, let me put this out there right now. I'm not taking any credit for where these individuals have gone, but I do just want to point out that before they were on your favorite podcast, fill in the blank now, they were back on All About Your Benjamins, and it gives me confidence that I can maybe identify some talent. So I'm just going to scroll through and we're going to look at some of the names. I'm not going to highlight everybody, so not meant to skip over anybody. You can go to allaboutyourbenjamins.com. You can click on podcasts and you can scroll through and listen through to the past guests. But early on, it was just me, my buddy Fervent Finance, who we had a podcast for a while, Reversion to the Mean, and he's bothering me now because I took it down to save some money. But Fervent was on there. Kyle Moore, who, if you don't know him, he is a phenomenal advisor up in Minnesota, doing huge things quietly. I wish he would be more public, but building an amazing practice, and you'll hear more about him in the future. Did one with my wife. I did one with a client. We go to the next page. We've got listener questions. Brendan Malooly, a friend of mine. Brad Sherman. Desarte Yarnway, who you all know very well right now. Corey Hofstein, Leanna Hankins, Tim Malooly, Andrew Thrasher, Mr. Vix himself. Keep on going to go scroll through. Again, this is my opportunity to flex a little bit. Did a Project One question at XY Planning Network Live. A lot of great advisors' names you would recognize today in there. Scott Frank, Douglas Bonaparte, Bill Sweet, Blake Street, Perth Toll, Joey Fishman out in Portland, EBI West. Go through this and look at the names on this podcast. This was the first one I did where I walked around, and there are nothing but big name, very important people in our profession that are on this podcast. Brian Portnoy, my buddy Tyrone Ross. I think he told me this was his first podcast, so that's kind of cool to know that I was the first one to have him on a podcast. And we're going to keep on going. I promise I won't go through all of them. Amobi Okugo, who's doing great things with athletes. Mike Philbrick, up in Canada, but now down in the Caribbean somewhere. Jamie Catherwood, Ian Rosen, James Clear, which just happened to come off of a tweet. Dr. Crosby, Andres Garcia Maya, who's got Zoe Financial out there. Ashby Daniels, Meeting of the Minds, the very first one of these I did in Dana Point, where I got a bunch of my friends. Emlyn Miles Madley, Desarte Yarnway, Courtney Randstrom, Perth Toll, Alex Shalakian, Taylor Schulte, Desarte. I think Tyrone was in there as well. And we just talked about stuff. Stephen Nelson talked about stuff in our profession. First time I ever did that. I did another one at WealthStack. George Kinder, Kyle Van Pelt, Chris Haig, Nino O'Neill, Fraser Rice, Kay He, Lawrence Hampton. I look back on this and I forget some of the conversations I've had, and it's been kind of fun to go back. But it's been real cool to see a lot of these people on a much bigger stage than my small All About Your Benjamins. And again, my opportunity to flex on the big guys up there that I saw something in some of these individuals before they did, and kind of my bragging rights. So anyways, I'm excited to bring All About Your Benjamins back, monthly basis. Going to continue to try to do the same thing. And I could hop on over to Advisor of Tomorrow podcast for the financial advisor world and do the exact same thing over the last 6 months of these names. And then I'm going to do it again in a couple of years where you see where some of these advisors like Samuel Dean and Anna Njai Conte, who was just on today, where these individuals are going to be in a couple of years. And I'm going to flex on everybody in the future again and saying, hey, I told you these advisors were going to be big deals in the future. So, every once in a while it's kind of okay to brag a little bit about some of the things that we've done, and this is my opportunity to flex a little bit. So that's all I wanted to share.